All right, welcome back. Hononegah Honors, Algebra 2. This is going to be a flipped class, so everybody should be watching this video. This is section 7.1 AC on factoring. AC means alternate content. So factoring is something that we did first semester. It's also something you did in Algebra 1, maybe even in geometry. So we're just reviewing some of the things that you're going to do when you look at something to factor. The first thing you should always do is there a greatest common factor? Is there something that's divisible into all of them? So they're all divisible by 8, and I can take an x out of all of them. So when I divide by 8 and take away an x, I'm left with 1x cubed, 3x minus 2. So again, taking out the greatest common factor is always the first thing that I look for. Now, not everything is going to have a greatest common factor, so then what do I do next? Well, if it's a perfect square minus a perfect square. This is called the difference of squares. So x squared is a perfect square. It's x times x. 49 is a perfect square. It's 7 times 7. And 1 is plus and 1 is minus. And it actually doesn't matter which parenthesis you make the plus and which parenthesis you make the minus. Now, the order does matter. I'm going to put a star by this one because this is one of the most missed questions on the test when I asked to factor this one. The 16 is just 4 times 4. 9x squared is 3x and 3x, and again, 1's plus and 1's minus. So notice that I did not rewrite it. I left it just the way it was. It's a perfect square minus a perfect square. Now, cubics. This goes back to first semester. You did not do this one in Algebra 1. There is a pattern to factoring a cubic. So first, write them as two perfect cubes. The first parenthesis would be without the perfect cube. The second parenthesis, it's the first term squared. So notice the x is the first term, so x squared. Change the signs and multiply the two terms together. So x and 5. And then add the second one squared. Now, this one is a little bit more complicated. So it's 2x cubed minus 3 cubes. When I do my perfect cubes, this is 2x minus 3. The most missed one is the first one. You're taking 2x and squaring it. So both the 2 and the x. Change the signs and multiply the 2 together. And that's not 12x, it's 6x. Change the signs and multiply the 2 together. And always add the second one squared. So there's a pattern to perfect cubes. Next one, factoring when there is no number in front. No number in front gets a little bit easier. You just need factors of the last term that would get you the middle term. So x and x, a negative 5 and a positive 2. Now, 7, you're saying, wait, there's a number in front, but that's a GCF. So don't forget about the fact that you need to take out a greatest common factor first and then factor. So I need factors of 20. That would also get me negative 9. So no number in front. So now for the top of the mountain. Oh, not quite yet. Factor by grouping. Factor by grouping is when there's 4 or more terms. And you need an even amount of terms. But you're going to take half the terms and do a greatest common factor. So I did a greatest common factor for the first 2. Then I did a greatest common factor for the second 2, and since there wasn't a GCF, I just took out a 1. You'll notice that the parentheses in the first one match the parentheses in the second one. That has to be true in order to do factor by grouping. So now, whatever is the GCFs go in one parenthesis, and whatever's the same goes as the other. And so the last one here in grouping is I'm going to take a GCF of the first 2 terms and a GCF of the second 2 terms. Now notice I took a negative 1 out of the second 2. Parentheses are the same, so I can group the GCF and put what's the same. GCF, or excuse me, lead coefficient that's not 1. So this is where the wheels fall off the bus for a lot of people because you have probably been taught many different ways of doing this. And so I try not to mess with people on the different ways that they want to do it. But I am going to show 2 different ways. And again, you only need to know one way And even you may not even use one of the two ways that I'm going to show here. So the first way I always tell everybody is guess and check, meaning I'm going to look at the first term, the 2x squared, and I'm going to come up with two values that make 2x squared. So I did 2x and x. Then, this is where the guessing comes in. I need factors of negative 12, and I need to put it in the parentheses. So I need some way to get negative 12. And again, this is where the guessing comes in. So positive 3 times negative 4 would be a possibility. And there's others. There's lots of other ways of getting negative 12, but that is one of them. So that's the guess. Here's the check. Multiply the inner, multiply the outer. If it adds up to the middle, you guessed right. That is one way, and that is called guess and check. I am going to do another way. This is very popular. Multiply the outside two numbers together. Now, come up with two things that will multiply to be the middle. So now, sorry I got interrupted there. So two things that will multiply to be negative 24 that add up to be negative 5 would be negative 8 and positive 3. And so you can now turn this actually into a factor by grouping question. So that 3, the negative 8 becomes an x, the positive 3 becomes an x. So what you're doing is you're taking the middle term and breaking it down. And so now it's factor by grouping. I can take a 2x out of the first two. I can take a positive 3 out of the second two, and I get 2x plus 3 and x minus 4, which is exactly the same thing I got doing the guess and check method. So I am going to stick with the guess and check method. And I'm going to try to guess two things that will multiply to be 6x. So 6x squared. So 2x and 3x. Those would be two things that I would say would multiply to be 6x squared. Now for, again, the guess part, I want negative 5 times a positive 1. Check. The middle two make negative 15x. The outer, so the inner and the outer, make positive 2x. Which adds up to the middle, and then that's the correct answer. Homework assignment is a factoring worksheet. If you have any questions about factoring, please make sure that you talk to your teacher. And good luck. As we start chapter 7, there'll be a lot of factoring throughout the chapter, so good luck.